Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I just wanted to get this press conference started just by letting everyone know that it would be recorded, that we will also be putting a press release out this afternoon after the press conference and another meeting that we have. We will be responding to questions after the meeting because we do have a good amount of speakers today and want to be mindful of people's time. We also ask that people keep their cameras, non-speakers keep their cameras and mics off, and that each speaker be mindful that they have about 2 minutes to speak, and that they will be receiving time prompts in the chat when they're getting close to their time up. So I'll be handing off to Laprisha Daniels.
Thank you, Kat. I would like to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us. I am Laprisha Daniels. I'm the Executive Director of Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice, which is one of the partner organizations of the Detroit Environmental Agenda, or DEA. The DEA is a Detroit-based coalition of organizations, researchers, businesses, whose sole purpose is to advance environmental justice and sustainability in the city of Detroit. We're convening here today with you all because the DEA is about to release its 2021 Municipal Voter Guide for the primary election. It should be made available to the public in the coming week or so through the DEA's website and social media pages, which we can share the links to in the chat. I will be contacting you directly to let you know exactly when it's available. Since 2013, the DEA has been producing voter guides for municipal elections in order to present Detroit residents with responses received from municipal candidates on a variety of sustainability, community, and environmental justice matters. Our goal is really just to make sure that voters can make informed decisions when they go to the polls. The fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, policies is paramount. And the voter guide produced by the DEA presents voters with responses from candidates on a variety of issues that impact environmental health and public health. Detroit is home to 5 of the top 25 most polluted zip codes in the state, including 48217 at number 1. Studies have connected the high levels of pollution and contamination in Detroit to high levels of chronic conditions such as asthma, cancer, neurological disorders, and birth defects. Environmental health as an area within public health really focuses on the relationship between people and their environment and promoting human health and well-being, fostering healthy and safety communities. And the DEA really does work at that intersection and strives to promote advanced policies and programs to reduce chemical and other environmental exposures in our air, our water, our soil, and food, so that we can protect people and provide communities with healthier environments. That being said, we'll now hear from community partners who will speak to the specific areas addressed in the voter guide, which includes sustainable community development, zoning and air quality, water affordability and infrastructure, energy, transportation, food security, recycling, composting, climate resilience and equity, green jobs, and housing. And so first we will hear from Sandra Turner-Handy.
Good morning. I am Sandra Turner-Handy. I'm the Engagement Director with the Michigan Environmental Council. And this voter guide is very important in informing our local elected officials how important it is to build relationships with residents within the city of Detroit. That way they are able to know what the priorities are around our built and natural environment and the impact and influences that it has on the quality of life for all residents in the city of Detroit. It is also important that we recognize that our built environment really has a great impact on our health and well-being, and that blight, vacant property, vacant land that is unkept, illegal dumping, all impacts our well-being. It impacts our mental stability for being in the city, and it also causes alarm for health and safety reasons. It is also important that we recognize our residents as being integral parts of turning our city into the great city that we want it to be. And that having access to land within our communities allow us the opportunity to be a part in reclaiming our neighborhoods and making them a place where the quality of life is the highest priority that we have for our residents. And in that, we're asking these elected officials in our voters guide to recognize the needs of the residents and prioritize them and their communities as our #1 assets. And now we will hear from Raquel.
Thank you again for joining us. My name is Raquel Garcia, and I am the Executive Director for Southwest Detroit Environmental Vision. In Southwest Detroit, we have 8,000 trucks cross the largest international border. We expect that to triple when the next bridge opens. We have the worst air quality in the city, and as we know, mentioned earlier, 48217 is the most polluted zip code in the city, in the state. There are trucks that use residential streets, and we have the effects of the emissions in our houses. So we want to talk about that today. Just a few months ago, the full city council voted unanimously to downgrade some zoning in Southwest Detroit from M4 to M1 in efforts to lower the industrial levels in Southwest Detroit in our neighborhoods. Members of the DEA assisted with outreach to residents across the city, which just shows the strength of our partnership and our table. And to talk with city council members about zoning, air quality, and environmental justice. This is just one example of why the voter guide is so critical. The truck routes, anti-idling, Detroit River protection ordinances are just a few ordinances that are designed to protect Detroit residents. And Detroiters want to know how the potential candidates will vote on the environment, which in turn are health policy issues. In District 6, over half of the residents are under 18 years of age and are still developing. How we zone our neighborhoods, how we enforce policies and keep violators accountable. For example, with the fugitive dust ordinance that we have now to keep some of the construction and dust that we have from industry is just another example of how an ordinance will protect our families. And we want to let everyone know about the voter guide and to talk about how these future candidates affect our families and our health directly. So thank you again, and we are all going to be available for comment or questions at a later time. And with that, I will pass it to Alex Novak with Water Affordability and Infrastructure.
Thank you so much, Raquel. My name is Alex Novak. I am the Community Planning Manager in Detroit for the Alliance for the Great Lakes. And at a time when infrastructure generally is on the national stage, Detroit is experiencing significant water infrastructure and water affordability issues that put local elected officials on the front line for advocating for our city and helping to fix these problems. Like many other Great Lakes cities, Detroit has aging drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. Some pipes in the city are over 100 years old, according to DWSD, Detroit Water and Sewerage Department. Detroit experiences chronic flooding, basement sewage backups, and combined sewer overflow into our rivers as a result of this aging infrastructure, in combination with increased extreme wet weather events. Meanwhile, Detroiters pay an average of 10% of their income for their water bills. The EPA says that 4.5% is an affordable rate. Detroiters are paying more for a long neglected and outdated system that is in desperate need of funding and repair. Adding to Detroit's infrastructure costs, DWC is required by the state to replace all 80,000 lead service lines in the city by the year 2040. This vital remediation will cost ratepayers even more unless federal funding is secured. Perhaps the most urgent and resolvable water issue is the fact that tens of thousands of Detroit residents have had their water shut off aggressively and en masse since 2013. This is a public health issue, especially in the wake of the last year, that can no longer be tolerated in our city. Detroit needs a water shutoff moratorium policy and a new water rate structure that makes water affordable for all Detroiters. We also need massive investments at the federal level that local officials can help advocate for, investments in resilient water infrastructure that will make our communities greener, healthier, and more beautiful. We also need our elected officials to fight for Detroiters and use their influence and platform to advocate for equitable solutions to all of these water issues that I mentioned on the local level, as well as the state and federal levels of government. And that is it for water, and I will hand it off to Kat.
Thanks, Alex. So good morning, everyone. My name is Kat Diggs. I'm the Manager of Programs and Outreach at Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice. Part of my work involves partnering with local energy experts to expand Detroiters' awareness of and access to energy efficiency and clean energy options. Detroiters pay some of the highest energy rates in Michigan while experiencing some of the least reliable service. Energy bills can consume up to 30% of residents' income, which creates financial hardship that puts them at constant risk of power shutoffs. Currently, DT sources most of its energy from CO2 and methane producing natural gas and coal, with the city only using 1% of its rooftop solar potential. The Detroit Sustainability Action Agenda, published by the Office of Sustainability in 2019, set a goal of doubling the city's solar potential from 3.3 to 6.6 megawatts by 2024. That same year, Detroit City Council passed its first greenhouse gas ordinance, setting the goal of reducing carbon emissions by 35% by 2024. We at the DEA believe that energy and people's ability to breathe clean air are a human right. That is why we have been creating voter guides since 2013, to make sure that Detroiters go to the polls informed about the stance City Council and mayoral candidates take on pressing environmental justice and sustainability issues such as these. With that said, we believe our City Council members and mayor can play a vital role in prioritizing efforts to weatherize and retrofit Detroiters' aging homes, whilst also advocating for the growth of our local and renewable energy industries by not only supporting the growth of clean energy jobs in the city, but also by championing state policies that would eliminate Michigan's current 1% cap on distributed generation and implement community solar options for the residents of the state, notably in this case, Detroiters. Thank you for listening. And now I will be passing the baton over to Todd Scott.
Thanks, Kat. My name is Todd Scott. I am the Executive Director for the Detroit Greenways Coalition. Transportation plays a significant role in many issues related to the Detroit environmental agenda, including greenhouse gas emissions, air quality, stormwater runoff, traffic noise, public safety, and quality of life. But in terms of public safety, I would note that Detroit has one of the highest pedestrian fatality rates among US cities. It's also seen the highest increase in vehicle speeding during the pandemic. And as you may guess, vehicle speed is a major determinant of crash severity when vehicles hit pedestrians or bicyclists. So this has helped bring community concerns about vehicle speeds to the forefront. It's led to thousands of requests for speed humps. It's led to streetscape improvements on major roads that slow speeding vehicles. All of this falls underneath the umbrella of complete streets, which are streets designed to be safely used by everyone, regardless of travel mode, age, or ability. And the city is also increasing traffic enforcement. However, complete streets are designed to discourage, if not prevent, speeding 24 hours a day. In a city where it's so expensive to own a vehicle, where a third of households don't have access to a vehicle, it's so important we make other travel modes safer, including public transit, biking, and walking. So for these reasons, one of our candidate questions focuses on addressing vehicle speeding to make Detroit's transportation network safer for everyone. And I will hand it off to Kibibi.
Thank you, Todd. My name is Kibbi Blount-Dorn, and I'm the program manager at the Detroit Food Policy Council. And I'm going to speak about food security. So we must have a clean environment in order to provide clean and healthy food for our community. And we must build a sustainable food system to maintain clean air, clean water, and clean land. In the same way that food and the environment are intertwined, food justice and environmental justice are also intertwined. We need local elected officials to ensure equitable access to land, as well as clean water and clean air, to support local food production and other local food businesses. We need to reduce food waste and implement composting on a community-wide scale to support a sustainable food system. And we need to address inequities in environmental sustainability in order to maintain food security in the city of Detroit. That's why we are participating in the Detroit Environmental Agenda's Voters Guide, so that residents are armed with the information they need to make informed choices and to advocate to their candidates for the things that they want to see in their city. Thank you, and I will hand it off to Deborah Stewart Anderson.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Stewart Anderson, and I am the coordinator for Zero Waste Detroit. I would like to give a brief update on the City of Detroit's recycling program. Currently, Detroit is recycling at about 35% of its residents that's participating in the Detroit Recycles curbside program. The latest recorded contamination rate was 2019, and it stood at about 22%. That's about 3% below the national average of 25%. Contamination rates will likely continue to increase without an overall effort to for increased community outreach and education. The the DPW recently rolled out another part of our recycling program to commercial, multifamily, churches, businesses, and public spacing, extending an opportunity to actually grow our recycling program in the city. The urgency for continued and reinforced support from city officials and lawmakers to build a green infrastructure that supports Detroit's sustainability action agenda and its goals is of paramount importance to our city. Eagle has recently pledged funding support towards a state recycling goal of 45%. These funds can be utilized for infrastructure development of all of recycling initiatives. So it is very important that our recycling program continues to receive support. And that is the end of my report. And I would like to hand it off to Renee V. Wallace for our organics.
Good day, everyone. I am Renee V. Wallace, and I'm the Executive Director of FoodPLUS Detroit, and it's good to be here with everyone today. I often start conversations with this statement: everybody eats, we ate, now what? So we know that everybody eats, but we can't eat everything. And even those things that we can eat oftentimes don't get eaten. So food waste is a reality in our environment. It is not only an issue at an individual level, it's a global issue, and certainly an issue to be addressed here in Detroit. So while I'm focused on the end result, which is the composting aspect of it, overall, there's an opportunity and a challenge for us to take a look at how do we reduce food waste and ensure that any of the waste that does exist, after we've taken all the actions that we can not to waste food, that the food that does fall out, the food elements that fall out, are handled in a very productive manner. And that's what we're asking our legislators to champion. We're asking them to champion the creation of an environment, both at a policy and a practice level, that allows us to effectively manage those resources. So we don't consider it waste, we consider it actually a resource. Presently, we have goals in both the state level and the city to increase recycling. Oftentimes people don't think about the food waste when they think about recycling, but organics recycling is a part of that effort. And so composting allows us to move toward the achievement of those goals. Some of the impacts that composting has is it helps improve our air quality, our water quality, our soil health, helps us to manage stormwater. So it is a very viable soil-based climate solution. It is also aligned with things that we've already committed to as a city. We already have a greenhouse gas ordinance that requires us to reduce emissions. The development of composting by diverting food waste away from the landfill helps to move us toward achievement of those mandates and those goals. It is also aligned with strategic initiatives that we have in our city. Our Detroit Sustainable Action Agenda has a goal to reduce the waste that's going to landfills. By diverting that waste for composting, we can achieve that goal. There are two actions that we can take as well inside of that agenda. One is establishing best practices for composting, and the second is doing pilot projects to help us inform the changes in policy and to help set forth good practices and how we do composting at all scales in our city, from your backyard to in the community, as well as to those larger organizations and companies and municipality can do composting in certain areas. As we're launching our work or relaunching our work around the climate strategy as well, composting will help us move that work forward too. We're going to follow the lead of the state of Michigan through the proposed changes to Part 115, which moves us from a disposal mindset to a sustainable materials mindset. And we would really like to see our legislators take the stance with us as citizens to be a city that leads the charge in moving to a more sustainable community by diverting food waste from landfills for composting. And at this time, I will pass the baton to Ricky Ackerman, and he'll talk a bit about climate resilience and equity.
Thank you, Renee. My name is Ricky Ackerman, and I am the Director of Climate Equity for Eastside Community Network. So climate change is already impacting Detroit, and it's only going to get worse. Increased intensity and frequency of rain events and more days of extreme heat are things we need to prepare for now. Residents are already experiencing flooded basements, flooded streets. We currently don't have the resources in place to handle an extended extreme heat event that would harm many Detroiters and likely lead to many deaths. Our energy grid experiences outages that could be improved through distributed renewable energy. These things will impact the health and well-being of Detroiters, these coming impacts of climate change. We need to make sure our residents, especially our most vulnerable, are protected from these harms, and that the impacts are not disproportionate to our communities of color and low-income households, which has been the case with many environmental harms in the city in the past and currently in the present. The ECN is currently working to create resilience hubs. We're building up our headquarters at 4401 Connor, as well as another house in the Chandler Park neighborhood to give people a safe space to go in their neighborhoods during extreme heat, power outages, or other individual emergencies. We just experienced power outages this last few days. We luckily didn't have too extreme of heat, like temperatures, but that's something that's likely to come in the future. We need to support initiatives like our resilience hubs. The city has taken some steps on climate issues, but we need to do more. And we need to make stronger strides right now to make sure that our residents are prepared. We need leaders in the city to take climate change seriously and to commit to giving residents the resources they need to prepare for what changes are inevitable, while also reducing emissions to avoid what is not. We need elected leaders to take strong steps today around flooding, around heat, around energy to build a more resilient city so that our residents are not left to contend with the impacts of climate change on their own, but rather are prepared for what is coming. Thank you, and I'll pass it to Tim Skrotzki now.
Hello, hi, I'm Tim Skrotzki with Elevate. We are a nonprofit that makes sure everyone gets access to the clean energy economy. Green jobs are critical to advancing solutions to economic disparities and climate change, just as Ricky mentioned. We want Detroiters to build the resilience for themselves. Detroiters trained to enter careers in construction, renewable energy, recycling, water infrastructure, conservation, air quality, and others will play a meaningful role in the championing public health and economic well-being in their communities. Detroit should lead preparing residents for these jobs and align existing and emerging workforce training programs with employers who see value in hiring these graduates. Clean energy jobs currently are the fastest growing sector in America. They also, on average, pay 25% higher than the national median average. So these are good, well-paying jobs. Detroit Works currently has an EITI renewable energy training program, but we also need to support our grassroots clean energy programs, green job programs like the Green Door Initiative and Youth Energy Squad, and many others. And then ultimately, we need to support HVAC, electrical, solar contractors in the city of Detroit, because Detroiters want to work for contractors, companies that are based in their neighborhood. And it's important that we support these contractors because currently the Biden-Harris administration has a Justice 40 initiative, which is dedicating 40% of all infrastructure, clean infrastructure funding from the DOE and other programs that go to Justice 40 communities. This is a great opportunity for the city of Detroit to attract these funds, but then also hire contractors that are based in Detroit, prepare them for these funds to do this work, and then have Detroiters do the work. And now I will move on to Ruth, who's going to talk about housing.
Thank you, Tim. My name is Ruth Johnson. I serve as the Public Policy Director at Community Development Advocates of Detroit, and I will speak to you today about housing. Every Detroiter wants, needs, and deserves to live in a truly affordable, accessible, well-maintained, and energy efficient home in a vibrant, healthy, safe neighborhood. CDAD's 200 members are in every city council district, and they are working hard to ensure that every Detroiter has this opportunity. There are many things that our local elected officials can do to ensure that every Detroiter has this opportunity to live in a great home. I'll give you two examples. First, we need more housing options that are truly affordable to the average Detroit household. You have probably heard the term average median income. Usually, for purposes of federal funding, the HUD definition includes Detroit metropolitan area. That includes Livonia and Warren. For a family of two, the average median income, AMI, for the metropolitan area is $62,800. But if you look at that same amount of money that a two-person household in Detroit, just the city of Detroit, it's about half of $26,000. So to the extent possible, especially when it is city funds rather than federal funds, we ask that local officials use a Detroit AMI. But because of the lower incomes, we also want public investment for home repair. Too many Detroiters live in homes with leaky roofs, mildew, mold, lack of energy efficient appliances and efficiencies. So we ask you to fight with Detroiters, members of this Detroit environmental agenda, all Detroiters, for great housing options. Thank you. I'll pass it to Kat.
I would like to just thank everyone for joining us. Thank you so much for to all of our speakers. And I hope that everyone better understands the purpose of the voter guide as well as the importance of the voter guide. The recording from today will be sent to you directly. The primary voter guide will be provided as well once it's finalized. A press release will go out this afternoon as a follow-up to this press conference. And if you have any further questions, please do reach out to Ellen or Kat. Their information should be in the chat, and they will field any questions that you might have.
Thanks everyone for joining.